Um, Welcome back. So in the previous video, I ended up running out of time with the sandbox because it only gave me an hour, which wasn't ideal because it then deleted everything that I had. I've raised it with the Microsoft IoT team, and I think they're gonna look at that one. I guess it's a soft limit. I think Olivia Block suggested it was a soft limit that they put in place there. I mean, if you know what you're doing, so that second time I've just run through it to get back to where I was far faster. And not only that, I wasn't explaining what I was doing, but I did find while I was doing it that I made quite a couple of mistakes in setting up the certificates, which I'll show in a second. But I thought I'd quickly recap what we did in the previous video. So this is an IoT module in the Microsoft Docs. It's a Learn module on setting up an IoT Edge gateway. And there's a bunch of stuff that it tells us we're going to do, but we start out just with a summary of what they're actually doing here. And in fact, it knows it skipped me straight ahead. Look here to where it thinks I should be. So let's get that right. Is it going to let me go straight into it? Yeah, here we are. Let's go to that point there. So we created an IoT Edge device identity. So we created an IoT hub, and then we created an IoT device identity within that. And then we set it to route every single message, including device twin changes from every module goes up to the IoT hub by setting a route in the module. And that was down here right at the very bottom with this little routing statement there. So that's what that's doing. And then next up we deployed a IoT Edge enabled VM, an Ubuntu VM, with some predefined, pre-set up code scaffolded out for us already in there, so we didn't need to worry about how to set that up. And then we generated, in the next module, some certificates, and it was in this section here that I think I made a couple of mistakes while I was setting it up. So right at the very bottom we had to use VI. Is it VI or is it V or is it VI? I'm not quite sure, but anyway, we had to use that to set these certificates up here, and I had a couple of copy and paste errors, shall we say. And also, you've got to be careful that when you remove the hashtags that comment these lines out, that you don't leave a space as well at the start of certificates, which is what I ended up doing, and it took me a little while to figure it out. And in fact, you can actually do a IoT Edge check here on verbose, and it'll tell you a little bit about what's actually wrong. So if I scroll up a little bit here, it says that it couldn't load the settings because it didn't find the expected key at 116.14, and that was that certificates line, but it had a space in front of it. It didn't like that, so I was able to fix that way. I'd run it again afterwards, and it passed a load of the tests, but it also complains that this DNS setting isn't working. But it doesn't seem to bother it because it does actually work. So back in the modules on the other side, the next thing we did was set up an IoT Edge gateway hostname. So we had to go back into VI and then paste in the full DNS name to get that to work, just so we can access that anywhere. Then next we opened up the ports for our downstream devices to be able to then connect in to the IoT Edge enabled VM. So we opened up 8883, 5671 and 443 for MQTT, AMQP and HTTPS. And then we created a device identity for a downstream device, which is basically just an IoT device within IoT Hub, and made a note of the connection string. Then after that, this is where we ran out of time earlier. This is where we were downloading the certificates onto our machine, and then we downloaded some sample code. I'm still having this issue with my Surface where it's throttling. So if stuff starts slowing down, you'll know why. So anyway, we then modified the connection string in the sample code that we had, and I think I made a mistake in that even as well. So I fixed that while I was doing it, and then we ran it, but it didn't work because the whole lot had been de-scaffolded, if you will, at that point. So I've actually got it running now. So this is the code, and if I just go in a little bit so you can actually see what it's doing. So you can see I've already run this, but let me just run it again. So it's just an F5 in VS Code will run it. So it does some stuff. When I ran it, it did the same thing as it did in the previous video, and it said, oh, I've got some certificates for you to install. So it installed them, but what it didn't do was this part here where you can see now that it's actually sending messages up to IoT Hub. And in fact, if we switch back across to the portal and go to the IoT Hub, and then we scroll down and actually see we're ingressing messages here. These are the number of messages used, and then we can see that my device connected. That's actually the previous time it connected. It'll update and say it's connected again shortly, I'm sure. And then these are the device to cloud messages that we're seeing. So, and then the total number of IoT devices. So I'm not quite sure why it's got up to 2. I think maybe just because it's not quite grasped the fact that the previous one's been disconnected, or probably more likely is that the IoT Edge device is a connection, as is the downstream device. So I guess that makes some sense. That might be what that means. Either way, what we can do is we can continue with this. So the instructions now allow us to verify the event flow from the downstream device through the IoT Edge gateway to the IoT Hub. So I'm just going to leave this on that screen while we're doing this. So let's verify that data is propagating. If necessary, sign into the hub, and we go back to the Cloud Shell. So I'm already there, but I need to exit out of this because I'm SSH'd in to my VM, so that's no good. And then we need to add a couple of extensions. Now I think I've already added these, so it might tell us that, but no, okay, that's fine. It's not, so it's installing that for me. Good, it's done that one, and then we can run this command here. So we only really need the first part of it to there, and then it's pjg IoT Hub 1. And what's it complaining about? Z. Oh, yeah. I've not copied the A, look. There we are. Oh, now it's complaining. So what's it saying? No module named that. That's interesting, isn't it? What's it complaining there about then? Not a very good start. Often it'll say, oh, if you've got a problem here on the left hand side. No, you haven't. So let's try that again. Is it pjg IoT Hub 1? Yes, it is, because I can see directly above me that it is. Right, okay, what's it complaining? No module named that. Let's see what the internet has to say about that. Oh, okay. So remove it and add it back. Let's do that. What is it to remove? It's just remove instead of add. Makes sense. That one. Let's add it back in again. No, that didn't fix it. Oh, that's frustrating. So what's it complaining about then? What did this one add in? Let's do that. I'll add that one in. See what that says. It's already installed. Well, let's remove that one then and add that back, just like that previous post said. Is that exactly what I've been installing? No. Okay. Oh, well. Dependency update. Yes. Oh. PJG IoT Hub 1. PJG IoT Hub 1. I can see it, but what maybe I need to change that. I probably need to set which subscription. How do you do that in the Cloud Shell? Man. Oh, okay, so this first. I'm going to just do that over here. We set it by ID because that's going to set by name. Might be able to just do it with the ID. So we want AZ account set subscription. Ah, okay, that's working now. I probably didn't need to be as secretive as that, really. There's not much you can do with what I've got, so. But what you can see there is we've now got, down at the bottom here, I'll zoom in a little bit. We've now got some, in fact, let's do it as a 4 instead. There we are, we've now got some messages appearing, so that's the temperature and humidity that. And believe me, that temperature isn't right. Well, that 31 might be quite close. It's still sweltering in my office. Certainly, I'm trapped in with this new. Oh, by the way, I've got my new green screen behind me. So, I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, new green screen behind me here. So, rather than blue. Actually, I noticed on the video there earlier that my eyes were going transparent. I've got blue eyes. So the chroma key was taking the blue out of my eyes and making it transparent, quite freaky looking, like something out of the Matrix. So let's come out of that now. let's give my processor a bit of a kick. Yeah, a bit more power. So with everything working correctly, we should see that. So I'm not quite sure if I missed something there. I don't think I did. I think maybe they've got a couple of things missing out of that. I'll probably have to look back on these videos and then make some notes and then submit some PRs to the docs, because I think there's a few bits that could be improved with this. Either way, let's stop that from doing what it's doing. And then that looks like that's about it. So in this summary here, we're going to check some knowledge, so see whether or not I can remember what we actually did. Which IoT Edge gateway configuration patterns are used for legacy devices that do not support? So for me, that is going to be identity and protocol translation, I think. Because if they don't support that, then they can't use transparent, and they can't at all. So transparent's in both of them. So it can't be it. So when setting up the config YAML, which X509 certificate settings correspond to the certificate used by the downstream device? Oh, jeez, I can't remember that. I'm going to say that one. I think that's the private key, which I think is the one for the downstream device. 8883 for MQTT. Which Azure IoT resource we use the network security group here to configure the inbound and outbound port access. When configuring a downstream device to communicate with the IoT hub through an IoT Edge device, the device must be configured to support which of the following? Configuring device to communicate with the IoT through a parent device, I think. Device isn't configured to support a parent device, is it? I don't think. It's just configured to be connected through a parent device. Not sure of the wording on that one. What values make up the device connection string for the downstream device? Hostname, device ID, shared access key. Hostname, device ID. Yeah, I think it's that one, shared access key and gateway. Yeah, I think that's about right. What do you reckon? Oh, look at this. Well, the only one I was kind of guessing on this one. So, is it that one? Yeah. Congratulations! Woohoo! I've got an achievement, in fact. You did it. I earned a badge for completing the module. It was good, but there was a few things wrong with it. So, content is great, and I like the format. I do like the experience. I like hands-on, and other. Ran out of time in the 1 hour sandbox. Can't spell, obviously. What is this? .NET code downloaded. Connection string. Variable name different. And also, what was that? See, this is why I need to rewatch it. It's late at night, and I can't remember now. What was it? The other thing that we just found. Oh yeah, Cloud Shell message monitoring extension commands. Extension commands required. That. Where? So there we go. Hello? You doing something? Kick the processor and that'll probably start it. There we go. There we go. So your feedback is very important to us. Yeah, good. So yeah, so hopefully you're able to watch those two videos and get something out of one of these. Let's switch to that. Yeah, so apologies about the the sandbox running out in the previous video. Not ideal, obviously, but I was able to get back to where we needed to be and then carry on. Obviously, some of the bits and bobs resource group and stuff is slightly different name, but that doesn't kind of make any odds really once you get going. It's whatever you call it. But yeah, that worked quite well, but there was quite a few little hiccups that I think we need to feed back and see if we can get corrected. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.